Is it worth investing after 50? That's what we're going to start this video with. The purpose of my live streams every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific is to answer your questions about real estate investing and reaching financial freedom. Weird how the radio voice just kind of kicks in when you start a video. I have a face made for radio. That's what everybody always tells me. So I have Frank from Old Guy REI here with me today, who actually flew from California. Very sorry about where you live. To Washington. And thanks for bringing this great weather with you.
It's been awesome. I can't believe it.
It's been great. It only rains in Seattle. Never move here. It's terrible. Frank actually just moved up here to teach me how to tile my restroom on my rehab. I have learned. I can't even. I'm going to forget more than I learned in this trip. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for this.
I'm glad we could do it.
So, is it worth investing after you turn 50? I made it to 40 pretty much without ever having $1,000 in the bank. Was one of those guys that always let my spouse handle the finances, and that worked out awesome. And at 40, found myself a single parent with 3 kids with about $89,000 in bad debt that I didn't know about until the divorce. Got laid off from law enforcement, started teaching at a CDL school making $17 an hour, and figured I'd work until the day I died. So I didn't know if it was ever worth investing. How has your investing career gone, Frank?
Well, I know it's worth investing even after 50 because I'm 60 and I can already see the benefits for us, even though probably 10 or 20 years later than most.
And you invested once already.
We did.
How did that go?
Yeah, we tried back in about 2007, just before the crash. We bought a couple of properties in California, and at that time didn't know anything about the real estate investing game, and we lost those properties and went through bankruptcy after that, and it took us a while to get back in shape to try it again, but I always felt like real estate was something that we could do and something that was going to give us a better future.
And so after the terrible experience of 2008, you had a gap there, and you're over 50 now. I'm over 50 now. When did you start investing again in real estate?
We started educating ourselves again in 2019, and I was 57 at the time. And since then, we've picked up 5 properties out of state. We're still in California. But
so investing out of state in California, you've picked up 5 properties. In what markets?
We're in a few different states. We're in Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, and Milwaukee.
Nice. Way to diversify. One of the ways I've diversified my portfolio, because I retired after, I didn't start investing until after 40, started saving at 40, bought my first property at 43, first investment property. And my goal wasn't to be able to retire early or to retire. I kind of took a page out of Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time book, where I figured, he said, if I can get to 4, his retirement would be better. So I figured if I had some properties, my retirement would be better than nothing, because I'd tried for a pension twice and both times it had been taken away. So you were 57 when you started. When you thought, okay, we're gonna get back into real estate, what was your first goal? You've told me before what it was. When you started looking at real estate, what was the goal?
My first goal was to pick up some properties, and hopefully the cash flow would be something that we could fall back on if I couldn't work or died or whatever, so that my wife and son would be able to manage things with the cash flow afterwards.
So, and you're trying to be super humble here. If you're familiar with Cody and Christian from Multifamily Strategies, Cody's goal for investing was to retire his mom. You've told me several times in the past your goal was so that your spouse could retire. And I think that's a great goal. It's almost like people in their 50s think 60's the end. So if you start investing in your 50s and it takes 5 to 10 years, maybe not to reach financial freedom where you make work completely optional, like the goal is for a lot of people between 25 and 50 for that retire early community. But if you only have Social Security versus having Social Security and 2 or 3 rentals, that cash flow, And if you started in 2019, you're 5 years into this now, and you have 5 properties, right? So that's 5 properties cash flowing. That each year with rent increases and stabilization and keeping good tenants, you have several ways, based on my video from a couple of weeks ago, on how to increase your rent, increase your income without even increasing the rent. There's a lot of ways that you're going to be able to make more money and have a better retirement, even though, like most of us, we didn't invest for retirement when we were 25, 35, 40 plus. So if you're one of those people that is in their 50s thinking, I'm too late to retire, is it even worth it at this point? Because one of the strengths that a younger person has is the power of compound interest, right? Einstein's 8th wonder of the world, that if you invest over a long enough period of time with a compounding return, you can have millions of dollars based on a small amount invested initially. Well, we don't have that option if we didn't start until later. Some cash flowing assets is better than nothing. And one of the most genius statements that I had recently, and I wish I had remembered the guy's name because I like to point out when people say smart things like this, was I was talking about the net worth difference of some, not even people who own rentals, just somebody who owns their own real estate, somebody who buys the house that they live in. The average net worth at the age of 65 for a homeowner is $221,000 in the United States. The average net worth of a renter at the age of 65 is $6,800. So I put that out in a short, and this genius jumps into the chat and goes, well, what's the difference? $221,000 is nothing. It's more than $6,800. And so a lot of people might think, well, what would be the point of investing if you can only have 1 or 2 cash flowing rentals? It's better than 0 rentals because you have compound interest, but what you also have is compounding streams of income. With Social Security and then a rental, even just one, if you have a mortgage on it, right? A lot of people say, I want a paid off mortgage by the time I retire. This is the last thing I want. A paid off mortgage costs me over $1 million. I want mortgages because I'm gaining appreciation on multiples of what I've invested. I'm able to depreciate multiples of what I've invested so that I'm not going to pay taxes on that rental income. You have some properties that have mortgages. So you're gaining depreciation on more than what you put into the property. You're getting all of the tax benefits, which are, in my opinion, much better than a retirement account. And so if you're 55, people say, well, you're 55 now, you can catch up on your retirement account, extra contributions. They don't come close to the tax benefits of owning a rental property. I'm gonna go to the comments here in a second. I see a super chat from Millennial Mike he actually sent an apology super chat of $50 saying, so he bought your dinner while you were here. Apologies, super chat, for not getting to see Frank. My new promotion is killing my schedule to send you guys to dinner or lunch. Subscribe to Old Guy REI. You should definitely go to the channel Old Guy REI, which we're probably going to be putting some videos on of the tile that you're doing here for the bathroom. How do you think you'd be doing financially if you hadn't purchased rental properties that you started buying when you were 57?
Not very well, I think. Things would obviously look pretty bleak. Just like you said, I think we're going to be lucky that Social Security is still around for us. And with the rental cash flow on top of that, it'll make things quite a bit easier. And probably we're going to have, money to travel and things like that. Take small vacations, not constantly travel, but to have some fun before
Nice.
it's too late.
Constantly traveling is exhausting.
Yeah.
It's a good exhausting. I couldn't believe when you said this was the first time you've flown.
Yes.
Well, you're going to have to do a lot more of that.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I was imagining.
I do know several people who don't fly or haven't flown. To me, it just seems weird because I probably fly 5 or 6 times a year, and I'm always looking. But like I said, it's exhausting. But a retirement that has more than just Social Security coming in is better than a retirement where, and this is a story I don't know if I've shared on video before, but I was probably 10. I had ridden my horse to the store to spend my couple of dollars on a bag of candy because you would get an entire bag of candy. And there was a lady there that was, in my mind at 10, very old, probably 50 or 60. And she was buying a stack of cat food. And I looked at her, and I'm just a little kid figuring out I can spend money at a store and get stuff. And I saw she was buying cat food, and in my brain I'm processing, oh, she must have cats. She looked at me, realized I was kind of judging her, and she went and bought a carton of eggs. And then it dawned on me years later, that's because that was what she was getting for dinner. That's what happens if all you have is Social Security. And they're talking about in 2033 it becoming insoluble and dropping down to where they're only going to pay 80% of the benefits. And, right now there's kind of a bipartisan bill to raise the retirement age to, I think it's 69 from 67, which would extend Social Security. And actually Trump is against it. And I think it's weird to see Trump and AOC on the same side of a few things. They're both opposing the ban on TikTok. And to see them agree on anything is just bizarre to me. Not that I pay attention to super chats, or not super chats, politics. Pay attention to super chats. But any advice you have for somebody who's over 50, other than don't pay attention to politics, who's thinking, is it worth investing? If they were sitting here across this weird park bench looking table thing here that we have, what would you tell them?
I would definitely encourage them to get started. It's really hard to convince people that this can work. And, like Dion said, being almost 5 years into it, we can see the benefits, and that's been helpful because anybody who is interested, we'll share our numbers with anybody just to kind of prove that the proof of concept, and hopefully seeing me doing it at 60, they basically have 10 more years than I do because and they'll have time for all the benefits to kick in. I think we're lucky that we don't need the cash flow right away, so we're able to just put that into savings, and if a deal comes up that we want to go for, we'll have that, and if not, we'll just have more in reserves for a later date.
Yeah, I call that recycling cash flow. So the lower we can keep our cost of living, so we avoid life creep and don't think, okay, you've worked now investing for 5 years, you deserve this cruise, you deserve the RV, you deserve the boat, thinking, I'm going to let this money pile up because deals will be popping up. And yes, in some markets, it seems like it's really hard to find a deal, and I'm very sorry, Crash Bros, but according to Redfin again, as of February, home prices are up over 6% again, market-wide. There are some pockets where it's down, so your market might be down, which is the time to buy because lenders haven't disappeared. A lot of people are talking about, I want a crash to happen so that I can go buy real estate. Well, when the crash starts, when it does, which could be 5 or 10 or 15 years from now or tomorrow, nobody knows, lenders are going to disappear. The ability to find money to buy a deal is going to be really hard. Ask anybody who was investing in 2011, 12, or 13. I see a super chat came in from Mikey, $5. So thank you for that.
Thanks,
this is
Mikey.
all the super chats tonight are going to Frank. So feel free. Nice. Good. At least we both didn't dive under the table. This is Port Orchard, not Tacoma. In Tacoma, that would be a different experience. Is Frank sitting on a shorter chair or is Dion on a taller one? This is what I'm saying. When we have Frank on Zoom, people don't understand this. I'm 4'8". So to sit next to Frank, how tall do you think he is? And you're what? You're 6'4". 6'4", right. And I'm 4'8". So it looks weird sitting next to him being the same height.
I'm on my knees.
That's what it is, exactly.
I was going to say, to your point earlier about the retirement accounts, when I started educating myself again, that's what I looked into first. And even there are some accounts that you could do the catch-up version, and you could put, I think, $18,000 or $19,000 in it per year. Even that wouldn't have been enough. It wouldn't have built up fast enough for us.
One of the things that's really hard to understand, and there's a level of correctness in the statement. $221,000 is nothing. The guy who said that, the commenter, who I should have remembered his name, because I want to give credit where it's due, is I would rather have a cash flowing property of hundreds of dollars a month or maybe $1,000 a month than have $221,000 in net worth. The cash flow is so much more important than net worth, which is a made-up number, especially if it's in your own house, because how are you going to tap that equity without having to now find a place to live? Although Tom Selleck's been doing reverse mortgage commercials now for 30 years, so that might be a thing for some people out there. Yeah, don't recommend those. Michelle said, thank you, Frank. This is what sunny weather is like. This is your chance to get questions into the comments to ask Frank about his experience of investing in multiple markets, starting later in life. And we're probably only going to have a live stream for about an hour today because with you leaving tomorrow, we have some tiling to finish tonight, which will be interesting. The wealth building journey, what's cat food? I inherited a cat with this house. Have you seen the cat since you've been here? Yeah, has he bit you?
No, he was strolling around today.
Okay, good. Yeah, Jason, there are people who don't have income in retirement. There's people who don't have income before retirement either. The wealth building journey, copy that. I don't care how scared I've been getting started. I'm only eating regular human food. Soylent Green, I recommend it to everybody.
They might be too young for that.
There's a few that should be, there's at least memes they would be able to track that, hopefully. The wealth building journey, remember FSK, Francis Scott Key Bridge. Thank you for that, wealth building journey. That is a tragedy. I can't imagine what's going on there. And what I can't imagine is the stupid stories that are going to come out about it every time something like that happens. Not good. All-Nighter Hider says to avoid politics. Many blood-sucking creatures. I agree. They all live in a swamp, right? And I'm making sure we're not missing any questions here. Larry. Howdy, Larry. I'm 56 now, no rentals yet, but learning from you guys diligently over here in Eastern Washington, Spokane, north of Idaho area. Nice. There are some really interesting areas to invest in there. Eastern Washington's the other side of the big mountain that you can see over there that we always keep pointing at. I think Cody and Christian invest in Eastern Washington. I don't think they're in the Spokane area. I know that I have some friends in Seattle who buy in Moses Lake, which is on that side of the state. So you're 56, getting ready to start, I think. So in a lot of my videos, I'll say this thing where I go, you're going to be alive in 5 years, you should start investing like it. And I think a lot of people are expecting me to focus on a 25 or a 35-year-old. But at 56, you are going to be alive in 5 years. You should start investing like it. So good job being here. Is there a question directed at Frank or Dion? I missed that. Robert, I couldn't imagine starting at 50. I'm 29 with 3 units beginning of 2019. 50 would be way too old for me. I feel like I am going to be crippled at 50. Being a contractor, our bodies don't last forever. Imagine at 57 when you said, I'm going to buy some rentals. If you just said, I'm not going to buy rentals and I'm going to work until 75. Right? That's kind of the alternative. Yeah. Our bodies don't last forever. So the people who make it into their 50s and think, oh, that's way too old, you still have decades in front of you where you can offset your need to work with income from rentals. And I'm trying to think of the last time I had to go to a rental. Like, we're doing work here on this one because I live here, I'm retired. I was just going to tile it, and thank you for coming because it would have looked nothing like what you put together. But it's been 5 years since I've had to be to a rental, to actually go to one. So I think if there are people that think at 50, if you're going to be crippled at 50, harder to work, that's the time to invest in a strategy that doesn't take a lot of physical work, like owning a rental property. It's not like Millennial Mike flies to Gary, Indiana, and does his rehabs, right? He goes there to meet with All-Nighter Hider, who's doing the work, and to network with people, and you can still network when you're 50. I know it doesn't feel like that when you're 29, but you can. And here we are, networking right after 50.
That's how it ended up for my dad too. He was also a contractor, and he worked until he was 78. He passed away. He didn't have any retirement or anything like that. So I think, who was it that's 56 now? I think it's not too late. We, like I said, I was 57, and Dion chuckles when he talks about our diversification. We diversified before we knew what that was, and we made a few mistakes. That's what our channel's about, just showing people what we went through and how we got through it. And it wasn't all mistakes, but there were a lot of good lessons learned. And now, like Dion says, he's told me a lot of times that I get concerned because we've had to put some money out this year, last year on a couple of properties, but in a few years that's not going to matter because your cash flow is going to build up a little bit each year, and you'll get all the other benefits from the property, you know, appreciation, depreciation, and all the other things that he always talks about.
So there's a couple questions here. One that's specifically for you. The first thing, it was Larry who was 56, so it's a great time to get started. Jason agrees with you, basically saying, so far with the new property, I had the heat go out, the bathtub clogged because of chipping tub chips. Now I gotta glaze all the tubs, and I'm really happy that we told him to have reserves, right? So in the beginning, all those expenses feel like they're coming out of our pocket as an investor. But as you are setting aside part of gross rents into that reserve account for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, 2 or 3 years from now, when a water heater goes out, I'm actually excited that I have the money the tenants have been paying in rent sitting in an account. I take the tenant's money and I put a new water heater in. I pay a handyman or a plumber to do this. I don't have to go to the property. They take care of it, and now I have a new water heater protecting my asset. Here's the question specifically for you. As a contractor, what are your top tips for finding good contractors? From Oculus.
I think we spoke a little bit about that in Vegas, but I think it's hard. I think even with customers, with jobs that I go to look at, I find that the client might, if I give somebody a price, say to remodel a kitchen or something, and everything's expensive these days, and I just have to give the price high enough so that we can make a living as well. But then they'll go and hire someone that's not licensed, for example, and then they know why they should have gone with someone like us who is licensed, because the quality is a lot better. They're not going to take part of the deposit and take off. I don't know myself either, because I've tried to hire subs and don't know until after the fact that either I can't work with them or their work isn't good enough for what we do. That's a really great question, and I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
Unless you send me your address and we can come and work with you.
Give you a good quote. That's what he did. He flew to Washington, gave me the best quote I've gotten. Won't even take money.
I think he's in Texas.
That'd be another reason to fly and take a trip. Yeah. I'll go
Everybody-
with you this time.
Everybody I've talked to doesn't like to go to Texas, but
Well, I can't go there now because they blocked Pornhub, so I can't go there anymore. Anyway.
the other thing that Jason was mentioning about the tub refinishing, something I learned recently, because we were going to do that at our home too. I was asking about a warranty, and when they come and do the refinish, if it's your primary residence, they would guarantee the job for 5 years. If it's a rental, they only guaranteed it for 1 year.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so there
I
are
didn't know
companies
that.
that come and do that. It's not something you would do, because I've seen the DIYers just say do it yourself.
Last time I did it myself, yeah, and it lasted a couple years, but the one company in California is called Miracle Method, and they come in and everything's really toxic, so they tarp off the bathroom and wear air gear and all that stuff, have fans exhausting out the window. So they use a lot of chemicals when they do it.
Okay. What I'm a fan of, anytime you have a bathroom like that where the bathtub is done, is to what we're doing here. Rip the bathtub out, I put in a shower pan, and then I'm now learning to tile. I had this one up here tiled. Was doing that one down there. It's a form of legal discrimination that I'm using. I prefer, so I have tenants with kids. I'm not illegally discriminating against families, but I do have a certain type of tenant that I want, right? Sometimes I want a military tenant, sometimes I want a Section 8 tenant, sometimes I want a working or retired tenant. So I don't discriminate and say I'll only take military or I'll only take Section 8. I control how I advertise, right? If I want a military tenant, I'll advertise on the base. If I want a Section 8 tenant, I'll send my link to the housing authority and say, please share this with your clients. So if I want a certain type of tenant in my house, what I'll do is make it less likely for me to get the type of tenant I don't want, which there's two. One is kids. I don't want kids because I've had all the damage on my properties, except for one like $50 thing, has been from kids. One time a dog chewed up a door trim, not even the jamb. So it was like less than $50 to fix. but that's the only pet damage I've ever had. So taking out bathtubs and putting in walk-in showers only, I tend to get less families. So I'm not discriminating. They can apply. If they qualify, they can have it. They just don't want it as much. And the other one that I want answers a question that I saw pop up from Yuri. Howdy. Bună dimineața. I have a chance to work with government placing low-income people. If you have to choose between alcoholic and homeless, who would you choose? This is the second type of people that I don't want. I probably have plenty alcoholics living in my units, like the guy that lives here. And I've been homeless. I don't want to rent to anybody who's in a low-income program. I will take Section 8 because that's not low income, that's fixed income. We learned this lesson we got to avoid a massive problem by watching Matt the Lumberjack Landlord's channel for the last year and a half. Right? He was diversifying his portfolio, going with some Section 8 tenants, which he still has. But they also came out with what is called an Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the ERAP, where they paid significantly more than what Section 8 would pay, significantly more than what area average rents were. And so Matt took 16 units, I believe was the number. It was a very small part of his portfolio. And I didn't do it because I only have 16 units. So even doing 1 or 2 would have this outcome. Matt had them for about a year or a little over a year, however long the program lasted. So those people lived there with no housing expense at all, while working, most of them. And then the program ends. And then Matt goes through an eviction with every single one of them except for one. So if you take a program with low income or homeless or any of those programs, if you have 100+ units and you do it with a small part of your portfolio, sure, you can handle the nightmare that's going to happen when the program ends. But if you have less than 100 units or less than 50 units, I would never touch one of those programs. I believe you have some Section 8 tenants?
We have one where, we will have one. We had the other one that is getting evicted.
So you have a negative experience with the program, right? It's entirely possible.
Right.
Imagine if it was somebody that was getting free rent, extra rent for a year, and then all of a sudden the program ends. It would be another eviction. So I don't know. Would you have a preference of alcoholic or homeless? Because it's often those are the same.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, about homeless people in general, and there are some, probably getting a little bit off topic, but there are some programs out there. We talked about the city of Santa Cruz, where we're at, setting aside some property so that homeless people could come in and set up their tents or have a little shelter. But there were some rules that none of them wanted to follow, be in by 10 o'clock, no drugs, no alcohol, that kind of stuff. So they have this nice clean place with restrooms and showers, but they won't take it because they don't want to be, I guess, governed at that level. So, I'm sure there's a fairly decent percentage of them that are just down on their luck and that are very good people. But it's hard to determine which ones are which.
Yeah, so the answer from both of us is we avoid that program. Our portfolios aren't large enough. I would want multiple dozens of units before I took on a problem that is going to be a problem, just to feel better about helping. Mikey asks, what is the biggest takeaway Frank had from the Denny's meetup with Dion and Curtis? PE turned RE YouTube channel.
The biggest takeaway was that you need to just keep your eye on Dion, because if he gets the opportunity, he will throw you under the bus at any given moment. He keeps because he's been paying for my meals, he's been introducing me as his boo. And he's been getting...
You can't pay for any food while you're here. I got to pay for your food.
So just keep an eye on him, and
Thanks
you'll be
for having
okay.
a sense of humor.
Well, before we go on, I was wondering if we could jump back to Oculus One's question. I was talking to, was it the young woman that was sitting next to me? Shelly. And
who I keep trying to get on the channel, but she's camera shy because she did a reverse 1031 and had an issue with the timeline.
Okay, I've heard you talk about her before. But as far as finding contractors, when I look out of state, because all of our stuff's out of state, I'll rely heavily first on our property manager, the agent that we bought with. And after that, I'll look at, because in California we have the Better Business Bureau. I'm not sure if that's a thing across the United States, but the Better Business Bureau, you can look up any contractor, any business, and you can find out if they're, have any legal action pending or any complaints. So that's where I would go first. And they're rated also. They start at A+ and go down a couple tiers from that.
I also like to go to the state website and verify that they have the right type of insurance, because there's general contractor insurance, but if you're hiring a roofing company, you want to make sure that they are insured for doing roofs. There's another question kind of related to that, is would you pay to put gutter guards on a long-term buy and hold property?
Right now, I think whoever's asking the question knows my... Oh, is it? We're looking at having gutters done in our duplex in Milwaukee, and I got an estimate. The gutter guard portion of that bill is $3,000. The gutters themselves are $5,000, which is in line with a couple of other estimates that we got. So I think right now we're going to forego the gutter guards, and we might see how it works out having someone go out once or twice a year and clean the gutters first, and then when we build up a little bit more reserves, then we can get the gutter guards put on.
I'm in Washington, where we have a lot of rain and a lot of trees, and I don't have gutter guards on any of my stuff.
We have this guy here that's going to be dropping some stuff.
Yep. So since I'm here, I will clean these. But I have a roof cleaning company that goes out once a year, does the gutters, does the anti-moss stuff, and then gives me a report on what, if any issues with the property. Did they winterize? Did they whatever? Other things that I've looked at. So it's one of the reasons to have. It's a $200 once a year fee to have them go out there. What I like to do with those and that's a contractor who does a lot of other work for me. I like to hire them for easy jobs, because then they're more willing to go into the crawl space and do the stuff that they don't want to do. Night News asks, is $40,000 too small to start investing?
That's what we started with, exactly $40,000. We bought a triplex in Missouri. The purchase price was $170,000. One thing that I would caution is to have some reserves besides the $40,000, because when we started, that's what we had. We had $40,000 all in, but it took a while for the property manager to place Tenant, so I actually had to pay the mortgage for a few months. And that's not horrible. It's about $900 a month for that property, but and I was paying it just from my work, the money I was earning at work. So if it would have been a little bit easier, and if you run into that situation, it might actually discourage you, because you're going to have to scramble to come up with money for repairs or any emergencies.
Right, you don't want to run the margins too narrow. So let's look at the question another way. Is $40,000 enough to start investing? When I started investing, I had $0 and $89,000 in bad debt. If I thought, I will start investing once I have $100,000 or $150,000, I'd probably be homeless right now and working until I'm 75. You start investing, there are 6 steps to getting started in real estate. And it isn't until we've done the 6th one over 20 or 30 times that we actually buy a property, right? So the first thing you want to do, this is how you start investing, when you have $0 or $40,000, or when I had $500,000 sitting in the bank to buy this place with. Step 1 is to learn how to save. And a lot of people think saving means I'm going to spend less, and that's the mistake. Saving means, what can you do to increase your income? Is it overtime? Is it side hustle? Is it learn a skill to be more attractive to your employer to get a promotion? Is it change companies to get a bigger raise than the cost of living raise your employer will do? And spend less, right? Those things go together. Then the next thing you do to start investing is, what's your credit score? Night News, is it above 760, which right now is kind of the goal to get the best lending products? You can start buying at 620 you can use FHA at between 580 and higher, but I wouldn't use FHA. I would go conventional, and at 620 or higher, you can qualify for loans, but you get a better loan product at 760 or higher. What can you be doing to fix your debt to income ratio, right? What debts can you eliminate? Then have you talked to a lender, right? 40,000 is just this much of your picture. What is your debt to income ratio? What is your salary? What do you qualify to purchase? When you talk to a lender and you find out what your options are, and sometimes you might find out that conventional loans or FHA or VA is not an option for you because your debt to income ratio is too bad. So now you look at DSCR lending, asset-based loans, or seller financing, right? You won't know which option to look at till you talk to that lender to find out what you're doing. So if you look, I'm at saving, credit score, talk to a lender. You can be doing this for years before you ever buy a property. That entire time, you are investing. Your savings is your portfolio. Your credit score is tied to your investing. And then you pick a strategy. With your $40,000, my first property, my first investment duplex, I had $28,000 in the bank. I'd saved for 2 years, worked side hustling overtime to get that amount of money saved up. And I house hacked a duplex. So I only needed 5% down on a $300,000 place. So it was $15,000 for the down payment. Closing costs, money for immediate repairs, and the money for reserves that the lender required, I needed 28 grand. So you have more than that. Do you live in an area where you can buy a duplex for $300,000, or are you willing to relocate to a place? Because there are places where you can go to like Gary, Indiana, where you can buy a triplex for $65,000, right? So yes, $300,000 isn't gonna buy you a duplex in King County or LA County or Silicon Valley, but Kern County, get out there in Rosemont, Tehachapi, Taft, there are places like that. Fresno, California. I don't know why I'm stuck on California, but there's a lot of places where $300,000 would get you a house hackable place, house with an ADU. If you have a spouse who just doesn't want your property touching your tenant's property, you can have 2 full houses. I have a house with an ADU. One of them is a 2,000 square foot house and a duplex on one property. That's a house with an ADU. You have a ton of options there where $40,000 is plenty of money to get into that. Now, if you want an investment property, you start looking at what Frank's doing and you look at another state where that can buy you an all cash property, or it can be the 20 or 30% down payment on a property to get it started. But the $40,000 isn't the metric I would focus on. Is this a good time to start investing? Investing starts with all those steps that come up to before you even have money to invest. What does your investing look like? I'm looking at the comments again. Night with, so 30,000 should be enough to start with. 15,000 as an emergency. Yes, absolutely. Glad we got to your question.
The one we were talking about earlier, that one from the turnkey provider, that was 18 to 20,000 all in.
Okay.
That purchase price was 80,000, and that's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
So that's absolutely a price point to get started at. At a distance, or house hacking if you're in a high cost of living area, a lot of options there. The option I wouldn't go with, but works for people like Ashley Kerr from the Real Estate Rookie Show. She can partner with people, right? You can bring the sweat equity, you can bring the deal, you can bring some of the money. There are people who will say, I'll bring $20,000 and then I'll come and do $20,000 worth of work to get into the deal. And that's a brilliant move. Redfish Fun, like the name. If you have a couple of rentals, you can move to another country or area that's more affordable. Geoarbitrage, absolutely. We were talking about this the other day. My brother and I went to Thailand for over a month, and we did everything you could do. We scuba dove, we went to the Khao Phanong 3-day full moon party, we stayed in nice places. Including the $600 airfare, we spent $1,300 each in over a month. So you can absolutely live in a country like Colombia, Thailand. I would have said Portugal, but maybe there's a better area to go to. I went to the Algarve, and I thought that you would need $4,000 or $5,000 a month coming in to live comfortably there. The hard part on that list of places that you can go to do geo-arbitrage. The first benefit is generally healthcare in the United States costs somewhere between $600 and $1,000 a month for premiums per person. So a couple is going to be somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 versus $60 a month for the couple outside of the US. So geo-arbitrage helps with healthcare. Same thing, like Redfin, Blue Cross. It's not like you take a hit. It's the same doctors that are just out, not in this country. But that list is shrinking because here's the other metric that matters to me on geo-arbitrage, going to another country because the dollar is so strong. It's getting harder and harder to find a place that likes Americans. Like 80% of America doesn't like Americans. Like our neighbors to the north and south that Ask why we say we're Americans, because we all live in the Americas. All right. FYI from Jason, Section 8 takes up to 60 days when you need to be approved, almost 2 months, and still have not gotten paid from them. Thanks for the reserves. I'm good. Thanks for the reserves. I'm good. Yes, I totally agree. That's why you need to know what's going on in your county and make sure that every form of communication you're doing with your Section 8 is through email, because their managers see it. A phone call, a voicemail doesn't count. Don't rely on those for anything, only emails. And I invest in 3 counties now. I don't have any experience in the third one, but those first 2, and I hate to name anybody by name, but Thurston County, Washington is amazing. I was approved in about 4.5 days. They let me send in a video of the repairs I needed to do, which was like a weather strip on a door and something else. The inspector actually came in and said, that plate over that plug-in behind the refrigerator is cracked. I have one. Let's put it on now. That's how good they were to work with. They want the program to work. Pierce County is like the one you're dealing with, where it's months to get a response. And so I don't have any Section 8 tenants there, and it's their fault. Not the tenants, the housing authority. And my mom always said, if you don't have something nice to say, speak clearly. Pierce County, Washington sucks. Section 8. You have an eviction going on with one. How's the agency to work with?
I haven't had to deal with the agency because the property manager's handling the whole process.
Okay.
I checked with them today, so they're going to give me an update tomorrow. Today was the court date for the tenant.
Well, I look forward to your video on your channel where you update how that eviction went.
Yeah, on the channel right now, that property is on the video that says inevitable eviction. That's where we talk about how that whole process got started, how we got the tenant in the first place and things like that.
I have never had an eviction with a tenant. I have had 2 inevitable evictions. I called them marriages. Angel, it will take a decade to recoup down payment and closing costs. Thank you for saying it that way. I lost a decade of investing for 10 years sitting by a place. I was like 30 and I thought, oh, my brother has rentals, I should do it. My friend has, at the time, like 20. He had 30 when I started. And I thought, I should get into investing. But my brother said the same thing you just did. And it cost me a decade of investing. So make sure you're thinking of it this way. Hopefully, Angel, you've seen my content and you put that in there knowing that that's what I would say. My brother said, and he's got it down to like 6 years now because he's got better investing. But when he first started, he said, I love buying rental properties. Every time I buy a property, in 11 years, I get my money back. And I thought that was stupid. He had his money. Like, it was his. And then he bought a property. And 11 years later, he can get his money back. That's a lot of work to get your money back. But that's not what happens, Angel. So I think there's a comment from before, because you said spent 68K, because that's the brain tweak I want to do in this video. I'm glad you're here. Angel, I think you're the one who called me the cabrita, the little girl goat. So thanks for that. Spent $68,000 on buying at 9K on renovations, feeling discouraged, and my market properties need a lot of work, but yield little cash flow. PITI is $13.50, rents is $26.50. Am I missing something? Thoughts? Yes, here's what you're missing. You haven't spent that money. Let that sink in. You have not spent money to buy that property. This is, when it dawned on me that my brother was saying in 11 years I get my money back, when I had this thought, it just snapped and I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy rentals today. I should have started 10 years ago. You're never gonna recoup the money. You're never gonna get it back. That's not the concept that's happening here. You have your money the whole time. You even have more than that. You bought it for, where did it go? Chat. Okay, $68,000 and you spent $9,000 on renovations. So what's the ARV? What's the after repair value? It's probably worth $80, $90, $100,000 now, right? Because you spent the money and you fixed it. So it's a much more attractive property now. That's still your money. It's still sitting there. You moved your money. You took the money from the bank where it was getting you a little bit of interest and dying to inflation, and you moved it into a property where you're now getting the cash flow that you're getting. In 10 years, when you say recoup your money, you will have doubled it, right? So now, so it's the finance, you're $68,000 down, that equity is still yours. You said the property was worth over $200,000. You're now gaining appreciation on over $200,000, even though you've only put less than $80,000 into the property. You're now depreciating over $200,000. So the rental income that you make, you're not gonna pay taxes on, versus the income you would have got from the interest in the bank, you would have paid taxes on. So hopefully that helps, Angel. Right, that money is still yours. You can sell, you can 1031, you can do a cash out refinance, you can take out a home equity line of credit as your equity position grows. So I hope I got that out in some kind of a coherent thought, because that thought stopped me from investing. Like, how long does it take me to get my money back? You have your money the whole time. It's just sitting in the property instead of your bank. Wandering Doc, I've located to the Philippines and I'm treated very well, like a very high-end lifestyle for under $4,000. That includes frequent international travel. I love it. Yeah, I haven't gone to the Philippines yet. There's a couple places that I want to go for the scuba, and there's a couple places I was told to avoid. So maybe Wandering Doc, when I go there, you can tell me where there's a part, I think, of the Philippines that people from the United States shouldn't go to. Yeah, Yuri, the government program is guaranteed money until it ends. Then you absolutely guaranteed to have a 5 to 9 month eviction with no income. And Matt, the lumberjack landlord, he was our litmus test. Go back and watch the last year of his videos. 80% of his problem tenants, phone calls, issues, tiny little things that they bother him for are from those tenants. That entitlement program. That's why I would avoid it. Section 8 is guaranteed, right? But it's not low income, it's fixed income. If you want to do it, Yuri, do me a favor. Make a YouTube channel. Title it something with real estate. Let me know the link and document that I'm taking this free guaranteed money to rent to either alcoholics or homeless or whatever one you're more happy with. Make the videos of how great the money is. It keeps coming in every month. Let us know how many calls and complaints you get. And then when the program ends, which they do, those fundings don't last forever. I want you to make videos on how horrible the evictions are, because that's what Matt did for all of us for the last year. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I wouldn't do it.
Did Matt ever say if he ended up profiting at all, or did he lose all this?
So he made good money while they were in, but then he had months to go through the evictions with no money coming in. So I would have to, he's got a math brain, would probably rattle off the numbers in 30 seconds, what it was, or whether he broke even or not. But money's nice, right? But so's peace and time freedom. So yeah, and Angel R. So if you're at 30-year at 6.8% interest, I did a video about a week ago on how a landlord can make more profit without raising the rent. You have a few options in the next few years with that loan. Wealth Building Journey says, right, payback period is the time it takes to double your money. Oculus, cash and rental are both assets on your personal balance sheet. Yep, so people are getting it. They're much more concise than I said it. Rob, howdy. Dion, that close to the water, you're gonna have to own a jet ski. I had one when I lived on the lake. Here I have paddle boards because I want to be physical on it. And during this temperature, we don't paddleboard. No, it's chilly right now. Thank you, Dion. You're La Cabra, not the La Cabrita. Thank you very much. I'll go with Chupacabra, right? I mean, yes. But Wandering Dog, check out, I'll get all of the pronunciation wrong on this because I'll put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Duine, near Dumajit. It's world famous for diving. Also heard Coron Palawan is very good. We'll have to connect. If you're still like residing there, Wandering Dog, when I go there, because I should be going there. This winter, I'm going to stay in Washington for the summer because we'll get better weather than this. But as soon as the summer's over, I'm probably going to head to Thailand. And while I'm in Thailand for probably 5 to 6 months, I will be going to the Philippines. So I'll reach out. Jared, I'm doing a form of low income, but it's not government based. It is co-living for workforce housing to allow them to get caught up on bills. It's working well for me so far. Right, and Jared, we should do a video and talk about your channel too. But you don't have tenants. You have members. So the eviction process is very different, and it's a really cool thing that I think you should share how that works. Rob, so is the burr done now, Dion? Do you think this burr is done? No, no. There's 2 weeks worth of work probably that's going to take 2 months. That's what I see. It could be done in 2 weeks. But getting qualified work that shows up and actually works every day is a challenge. What are you doing for 2 weeks?
Thursday I have a vanity cop install.
Okay.
That's why I have to go back, but I have a little job to finish when I get home.
Fair enough. That was a joke, by the way.
Hopefully Cynthia's not watching.
Right. Yeah, all-nighter, if you can give me the number, that'd be great. Wealth building journey. Same thing is happening with the out-of-the-country visitors. They have guaranteed housing until those sanctuary locations don't have enough funding to keep housing. Very true. I have members, Jared, exactly. I would love to do a video with you. I can give up anytime. I'm a W-2 free and do REI full-time these days. Awesome. Congratulations. I look forward to that. Yeah, we'll connect. I think we have each other's numbers, right? It's either that or emails. We've talked with each other, so. You'll make a video in Vancouver, BC. Here's the other risk you have, Yuri. If you own the property and you can go with the program, that's not as risky. If you're buying a property because of what that program pays, and then the program ends. And in Canada, you guys have 5-year fixed rate debt. So in 5 years, your interest rate's gonna adjust. That's terrifying. That's what happened in the US in 2008 as everybody's interest rates hit. Adjustable rate mortgages hit. People were levered 105% on properties that wouldn't cash flow. A ton of reasons that caused our crash. But thank you for making the video, and then let me know about it. Seeing if I'm missing any questions here. We have about 5 minutes to wrap up here, so I want to get through and make sure if there's any questions I get to. So this week, we're probably not going to do a members only. We'll be doing that next week. And then I think for the month of April, we're doing course videos every Tuesday at 6 p.m. So that's me committing to it if everybody reminds me. Here we go. Let's connect. Okay. Do you have pressure Mike to do another house hack now that I've been pressuring Mike for 2 years now to do a house hack. My kung fu is no good here. John, do you do cost segregation on any of your properties? I'll start with you.
We haven't yet.
No. Okay. So this will be the question that we wrap up with. Remember, I do other live streams throughout the week on my phone like this where I can't see the comments. Today I've got the laptop out here so we can do this. Every Tuesday at 4, I answer questions for usually a couple of hours when we don't have a bunch of tiling to get done before you fly home tomorrow. Frank is leaving me. It's gonna be a sad day. Washington will be less cold. Here's why I haven't done a cost seg. If you have a high W-2 income or high income and you qualify as a real estate professional, meaning you work more than 751 hours a year in real estate, you work more in real estate than you do at your W-2 to qualify, or in the case like Matt the Lumberjack Landlord, your spouse qualifies as a real estate professional, then a cost segregation study can take a lot of your depreciation from 5, 10, and 15 years, do it up front. You get about 25% of your depreciation all at once in 1 year to use that against your earned income, your passive income, and then not passive income. So your, what is it called? W-2 income. We'll just call it that. That would make sense. I am the lazy investor that spends less than 2 hours a month on my real estate portfolio, so I don't qualify as a real estate professional. Currently, as a retired person, I didn't qualify when I worked 50 to 60 hours a week in my W-2, so I'm not gonna commit fraud. I haven't done it because of that, so I paid a ton of taxes working in my W-2 job. And then here's the other reason why I don't do cost segs. It takes 25% of your depreciation that is normally used over 27 and a half years, and it takes it in year 1, leaving you only 75% of your depreciation to utilize over the next 27 and a half years. I'm gonna be alive for a lot of those years, and I'm gonna want that full depreciation. So yes, it might make sense this year, have a little bit of a bonus. If you can use it against high W-2 income, take that write-off and then put that money to work so that that money will earn more than the loss of the depreciation over 27 and a half years, losing 25% of your depreciation every one of those years, and no one knows what your income is gonna be like 2, 5, 7, or 10 years from now. No thanks. There are times it makes sense. Like times to have an LLC, it makes sense, but there's a lot of times when it doesn't. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Old Guy REI here on YouTube. I will put a link and pin a comment, or one of the mods in the channels can pin a link to Frank's channel. You should check it out. This is a contractor investing in real estate who started at 57 that has a ton of knowledge that can help you in your investing journey. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And just in case she's here, you want to say hello, Cynthia?
Hello, wife.
Yeah, there you go. Until our next video, thanks for coming to my